you're showing me it doesn't matter. So it's like, all right, cool. Choose love.
Facts. All right. Well, we'll just segue from there since you're already rolling. So, we did some interview many years ago, probably 2021, 2020, somewhere in there.
Yeah.
So how would you describe your relationship with New Orleans today compared to then? Hello, birds.
Interesting question. I think it's gotten deeper. Like, I've gotten a deeper, like, love and appreciation for New Orleans, I think, since then. I think at that point, I was kind of like, looking for I was in an interesting transitional space, like, with, like, relationships and living situation. You know, I had, like, just, like, moved from, like, in the city to, like, the West Bank. And, was, like, working nonprofit stuff. So I think my lens was, like, changing at that point, and now I'm kind of, like, done the transition. So let me get to a point. I think that then versus now, I have a much deeper appreciation for, like, what the city is, and less of a disdain for, like, what it's not. You know, like, it's more so just, like, I'm not really looking for, like, my out anymore. I'm kind of just like, if I leave, I leave. You know, if the circumstances are right, and, you know, and the money pays and the things happen. But now my concern that I don't think I had as much then that I have now is, like, if I leave here, when I leave here, then, you know, I leave a community that I've had put in so much time and work and effort and to build, that's, like, based on so much love and care and, like, genuine connection. Especially, you know, if in the context of, like queerness, it's like, you know, what is it? I have the privilege and, you know, the beautiful privilege and reward of having, like, been able to contextualize my Black queerness in New Orleans, within, like, you know, like, a community and a lifestyle that rewards me through love and care and support. And I don't know what that looks like anywhere else. And then having to start from scratch to do that kind of feels like, it's just, like, it's a lot more to consider than just, like, you know, I want to move somewhere where I'm closer to a Chili's. Like, like, you know, like I think of the resources that New Orleans offers differently, in a much less commercial sense, and more of, like, a, you know, like the lifestyle that I feel like is both a blessing and a curse here is, you know, the fact that, like, it really is laissez le bon temps. I hate saying that, but it really is, like, laissez le bon temps really. Like, it really is just, like, you know, like, you know, the good times aren't necessarily always, like, you know, just going to be a fact of life, and that's fine. That's just, I mean, that's a part of it, is the fact that, like, you know, you have to sift through the shit. And so it's like, to have been able to live a life here to where I can have that perspective and where I can, like, shit can be hitting the fucking fan, and I can always look around and see so much else that I have. I can always, like, you know, like, have, like all of this other, like, you know, support and all this other just, like, positive, beautiful things to, like, to look forward to, even whenever, like, I'm hating things. I'm like, I have the worst night at work and be like, well, this sucked, but at least I know I'm going to be able to, like, go to a friend's house after this and talk about it and laugh, or, like, you know, go to a bar and have a drink, the bartender that knows me, and, like, you know, and tell him about the shit, and then and maybe he gives me my drink for free. Not the goal, but, like, you know, but just once again, the price of community is inconvenience. The price of New Orleans is inconvenience. However, the reward is so much greater, and I think that's how my perspective has changed. I've gotten older, and my appreciation for things has shifted from a less, like, has shifted towards things that are beyond survival, strictly just survival, base level, capitalist survival goals. So I think that's the best way I can put that.
No chance. That's why I was like, okay, once the first question is done, I'm rolling again, but okay, once the first question is done, I was like, let's just check it now. Even though it's a weird break in ed and post, just put it into some weird thing.
Yeah.
So I'm actually going to skip a couple questions that I normally would ask, because you kind of answered a bunch of them. There's a couple of them we can't do yet because we haven't picked your location for your portrait.
Yeah.
Which is fine.
Okay.
We'll just do those at a different point.
Okay.
You'll be in a different outfit in a different place.
Yeah.
And it'll be a fun editing process. I don't give a shit. It'll be cool. And that's why we're doing this.
Yeah.
Can you be like more like what do you? So I know what you mean because I share a cultural capital with you.
Yes.
But can you be more specific about what you mean? Like I hear what you're saying about it's not just economic capital stuff for New Orleans. It's like these maybe richer cultural things. And I hear you kind of saying in queerness, like having to build that kind of community elsewhere. How does one do that? But then also just more in general, like what is that? You know, like it's like, was it like early 20s you was like, I'm really trying to go oons in the big cities, and now it's more like, maybe what happened to get you to appreciate the, the local bartender that knows you more so than maybe the economic quality that didn't seem like.
Transcending ignorance of what that looked like. Like I think a part of it is like oons in big cities.
No, that's fair.
But also just like being able to get to the point where I was telling somebody this the other night at work, because they were asking me about we were talking about my experience living here, and like, do you like living here? And something I said to them that I've been saying a lot recently is that I see the world in New Orleans, like not in the sense of New Orleans being like the center of my universe and me having this delusional perspective that that doesn't see that this is still a medium-sized city in the United States, but I mean but also not that's what I'm saying, not even in spite of that, but because of that, the fact that how special is it that we live in a city, and this is just I'm gonna expand on this. This is a city that has a population of sub 500,000 at this point. In southern Louisiana, in the South, which is already generally a less kind of revered part of this country. But we host a Super Bowl, and we have millions of people who visit here every year. And when I tell people where I'm from, they know exactly where I'm at. Versus say a city that's similarly populated. If I tell somebody I'm from fucking Tulsa, Oklahoma, who's from, Copenhagen, they're not gonna know what the fuck I'm talking about. It doesn't matter to them. This city matters. In a very, not in a sense of we have Fortune 500 companies, or in a sense of we have, because also beyond just the Bourbon Street and the party scene, people talk about the history and, everything else, the cultural significance, and whatever, through their misunderstandings of it, they have an understanding that this is important, and there are things to come here and learn and explore that you can only get from being here, and especially whenever they were excited and open and willing to listen to somebody who is actually from here and have whatever perception in their head that they came with altered by somebody being able to give them their first-hand account that might differ vastly from other first-hand accounts that they have here. Because I also think that my experience in New Orleans, as that of especially as a black person here, is a lot different from a lot of other black people who live here, and I don't shy away from also seeing that as a privilege. It's a privilege of the schools I went to. It's a privilege of my family's more my family's more is historically the right word, generally more stable economic position, just I don't view that as I view it as a privilege, not in a self-aggrandizing sense that it makes me better, but in the sense of I'm more equipped to communicate on a more wide scale, and and I don't have to go other places to be able to enact that. I see the world here. I meet people from all over the world. I see reflections of everywhere else that I've been here. I've gone to these bigger cities, and I've been I've been this is cool, but I want to go home now. I think the only city that I've really been to where I was just this feels this feels directly transferable. This feels like this like this makes sense given the context of like where I'm from, given the context of New Orleans is like New York, which is crazy. New York, Philadelphia, even, which are like once again much bigger cities, has much more of it. But I think the cultural cachet of those places translates. Yeah. So I think that's the biggest difference. It's just like my fuck. What was the question?
No, you're fine. We can just move on. You said a lot.
I said a lot.
Yeah.
Did I say good things? Did I get to the point?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So how do you remember the neighborhood you grew up in, and have they physically or emotionally changed for you? Yeah. Sorry.
Both, dude. Like I mean, neighborhood I grew up in pre-Katrina. Ninth Ward, 3301 Piety Street. That was where my grandmother's parents bought the house back in like the 40s, and then raised her and her sister there. My grandma raised like my mom and her sister there, and then my aunt, my grandma's sister lived across the street, and then we had Miss Riddle who lived in the next door, who would like like my grandma would send me over there, maybe get something from her, and she would like always like give me a kiss and a banana or a peppermint or some shit. And like our Miss Gail, like it's just like my first kiss was a girl who lived across the street. It's just like going from that. It's very jarring to go from this functioning community that your family has existed within for generations, that you have even in the only 8 years that I existed, by the time Katrina hit, but like I contextualized my whole life within this block. And based on also my family having contextualized their whole lives within that block for much longer, and that being my understanding of the way that life worked, even when I went to school uptown and all this other, all this other stuff, like it's just like going from that to then instantly having that, like torn away and then being moved across the state, being displaced like that, and then for a few years after moving with the hope that like maybe it'll come back, and then and then more and more things happen. People move away, parents divorce, your grandma sells the house to the government, so like you don't have the land anymore, and then like you're like, well, maybe we're not there, but maybe like other people will come back, or maybe like like maybe like it'll revitalize in a different way, and then like to go back to my neighborhood now, it's like it's lots. I think it's maybe one house on that block now. And that's heartbreaking to say the least. Yeah, dude, it's really fucking sad.
Yeah, that is sad.
It's really fucking sad, man. It's like I have to, and I realize how much like like the kind of that lack of like a physical representation of my family's history and like that proof of existence. Of like not just my family, but everybody who lived in an area for years, for generations, like that missing is like has such a profound effect on my life. While it like kind of gives me a perspective that expands my worldview and is able to increase my capacity for empathy, it also like. There's an aspect of jealousy to it. Like when I hear people talk about like like going back to their family homes and shit like that, I'm just like, damn, I don't have that. Like it sucks. There's and there's also like it's informed this like unfamiliar relationship with permanence that I have. That kind of makes it hard for me to move in certain ways and to take certain chances and to just like like think of long term, think of long term sustainability. Like. It's a hard concept for me to grasp when when you watch when you watch a life be built over years and years and years, and you watch people come into the world and have their whole experiences shaped in this space, and then that's all just taken away. It's just all just gone, like by nature and by government. Yeah, I'm getting there. Yeah, like partially by nature, but also by by government neglect and racism and just everything else. It's just like it's I have to constantly reaffirm make the choice every day to reaffirm my ability to believe in shit, to believe in the capacity for improvement and success, and in my ability to transcend all of these things that have been proven to me at a very young age to to be against me and to have no problem with disrupting my security, you know. So yeah.
Maybe more of a happy question.
Okay. All right.
What kind of spaces? So this could be homes, schools, streets, clubs, whatever. Feel the most like you in New Orleans?
I love the club.
The club. Which club? Which club?
You know, I go to Poor Boys a lot.
Oh, yeah.
Or like Domino. Honestly, wherever my friends are DJing at this point, or wherever my friends are DJing, or wherever, like, you know, like my friends are bartending or wherever my people are. That's like that's what feels like home. Ooh, okay. Here's a good thing. I don't even know if you knew this. So I've been getting into, like, you know, I've been, like, kind of officially more getting into DJing. And like last year, like, you know, when I was like starting to go to the open decks and practice DJing at Poor Boys, you know, people started asking, yeah, so have you chosen a name yet? And I was like, nah. And I started thinking about it one day, and I landed on Churchwig, DJ Churchwig. Oh God, excuse me. So here's why. This is the fun part. I like this. You know, I grew up within like the Southern Baptist Church, you know, like the church being another like generational space for me, where my grandmother's father kind of like, you know, was one of the founding members of the church, and this, that, and the third, and you know, and my grandma was a musician within the church as well, and my auntie was a secretary. Anyway, this, that, and the third. So, where I still continue to find, like, you know, I don't go to church anymore. I don't really even necessarily identify with, like, you know, like Christianity anymore. I do, but the merit that I find within it is not necessarily through the belief system, but through the community and the act of, like, you know, communal worship, the act of, like, you know, of like of coming somewhere with the intention of, like, you know, like putting on your best and like, you know, and joining together with people with a common goal of worship and appreciation and, like, you know, fellowship. And, you know, me having found that within the club, within like on a dance floor, within, like, you know, the music that you share with the people who, like, you know, who are there with you, like, you know, in the moments whenever, like, you know, I might be outside having an amazing conversation, smoking a cigarette with one of my friends or somebody who I just met, and then, you know, I hear the bass line to a song, and I'm like, oh shit, that's XYZ, and then we all run to the dance floor to go, like, you know, it's just like, so church. Okay, so bringing this back home, you know, like, my grandmother being, like I said, a musician in the church, and music being kind of the most, like, being a part of the church that I enjoyed the most, being someone who sang in the choir and someone who was like, you know, was directly connected to the music that was being made, and always just having, like, you know, just loving watching my grandmother up on the organ, and, like, you know, being kind of like, you know, like the controller, the DJ, like, you know, like, and then just the intention of people, like, you know, seeing how happy people were, because, like, you know, the sermon can be the thing that kind of, like, takes people out of it, depending, you know, but the music is where I found there was always just a general harmony there, a general beauty, a general, you know, like, worship and enjoyment in that. So, and then, you know, the concept of, like, you go to church, you know, you go there for this purpose, and you put on, you know, your good clothes, you put on your good wig, like, you know, like you make sure that, like, you know, Sister Jackie ain't talking shit because you got your good wig on, this and the third, like, you know, like, or, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's like you flex your best self, and church wig is kind of like that. Like, it's just like, not necessarily the wig. I'm not necessarily wearing the wig, but I'm creating a space for y'all to come out and put on your best and feel your best and come and join in this fellowship of worship, through whether or not it's fucking through Britney Spears or through, like, you know, some, like, random house or techno song that I found or something, like, you know, it's like whatever the case may be, like, that being the communal experience and that being the thing that I really find myself having a sense of home within. So, yeah.
Okay, so I probably should figure out how to ask this and not say this, but what's interesting is I've been trying to make an argument about New Orleans music that we shouldn't look at it as genred. We should look at it as a continual space of subjecthood creation.
Absolutely.
And so there's a term that a religious scholar uses called complex subjectivity. And this is actually the idea about black religion.
Okay.
And that black religion in America, well, black religion implies America, but black religion in America is about creating complex subjectivity between terror and triumph.
Ooh.
And so I think in New Orleans in particular, it's an apt space to think about it in those terms. I say all that to say, you kind of said a lot of that in there.
Yeah.
Which is kind of cool.
Yeah.
And I don't really have a question. It's just more like, I mean, I guess maybe my question would be, I mean, do you think that's wrong?
Hell no.
You know what I mean? I don't know if that's how you're supposed to ask questions in research, but
I mean, like I said, I think like especially in a way that like I express like my relationship with the church, and like me having like like a, I guess in a very, to just use the term, like complex subjectivity within the way that I view like the aspects of the church which I choose to identify with based on like my personal subjective experience, being the music, the enjoyment, the fellowship, and loving that, even through the understanding that like what's being preached throughout the sermons, and like the whole, I guess like just the general kind of point of the proliferation of black Christianity historically being like kind of like a crusade against like indigenous religion and individuality, and like a conduit of assimilation, but also transcending to a space where black people found spaces where we could commune safely for the most part, and and could share resources and could share hope, like I think it's important to be a little subjective about that. I can't just in my good heart write off just like black Southern Christianity is just like this generally just oppressive and terrible thing. Like I understand the history of it. I understand like kind of what the core shit is. I understand like the parts of it that I hate, like the mega church shit, the greedy pastor shit, and all that other shit. But I also understand like what it historically means and what it contemporarily means to a lot of people, and how I think that as black people, hope is something that is at times all we have, and if that's the place where you got to get it from, then it is.
Right, or you can get it on the dance floor.
Or you can get it on the dance floor.
In the club.
Exactly.
But look, my fucking battery's about to die.
Oh.
So.